MLB pitcher nailed down. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. With me is Nick Tasso at the Inefficient 2. Taking a look at Thursday pitching, and once again, it's Clayton Kershaw day, but there's also some other notable arms, and overall, I mean, it's really top-heavy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the continuation of the difference in DraftKings prices and FanDuel prices is just very interesting. So that's one thing I'd like to talk about later on.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of notable names in here and prices that are extremely different.
Yeah, it's weird to have your two biggest sites be price-wise just so drastically different.
Yeah, definitely. Jumping right in, I think 7:05, Royals and Yankees, Ian Candy versus Nathan Eovaldi. Over-under of 8. Both these offenses have been middle of the road at times, have kind of broken out every now and then. I'm a little hesitant on deploying either of these arms, Ian Candy or Eovaldi, just because they struggle with left-handed bats. And in that ballpark, some of those guys and the home runs per 9 allowed to lefties is a bit concerning.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at Kennedy, and he's been really good this year outside of one start. But like you said, lefties giving up home runs is a concern. It's a bad ballpark for him, and he has a 246 WOBA against lefties this year, but his career is 320. So I think that's definitely going to change at some point, and I think maybe this is the game where it is. As for Eovaldi, I think he's very similar, but because he's more of a ground ball pitcher, he has more potential to actually have a decent game against the Royals. So I'm not saying I'm a fan of either one of these guys, but if I had to choose, I'd probably play Eovaldi in GPPs, but only as like a starting pitcher too on DraftKings. His price on FanDuel, 8,900, is just too much.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if either of these guys had a good game. I think their floors are just relatively low. So obviously GPP at best. And I agree with you. I think Eovaldi's kind of the guy I would lean on a little bit more just because he doesn't have that big home run potential like Kennedy does.
Yeah, but also the Yankees have a few injuries right now, so Kennedy might be able to sneak through some innings. But at the same time, I'm just staying away from both these games.
Yeah, definitely.
Starters.
Next one here, Tigers and Orioles, over under 9.5. Mike Pelfrey, Ubaldo Jimenez. I'm looking to really target hitters in this one on both sides. I think overall this is kind of a hard, easy pass on both sides.
Yeah, I know Pelfrey's price is pretty appetizing at 4,400 on DraftKings, but I'm just staying away from him. He has almost 6.5 ERA, and he's only averaging about 5 innings, and he really doesn't have a lot of upside with strikeouts, and the O's offense is pretty hot right now. I think Jimenez is interesting, but I don't like the matchup, and it's a bad ballpark for him, even though he's pitched well there in his short time there. But I'm just kind of staying away from both these guys.
Yeah, definitely with you. Tons of better options. And this next one here, Phillies and Braves, Vince Velasquez versus Aaron Blair. Over under a 7, Phillies minus 133 favorites. The series has been intriguing just because it features two of the worst offenses in the league. I definitely like Velasquez as a kind of a step down from Kershaw tonight. But either way, I think more so I'm trying to figure out where he can kind of fit into my lineups, because if I lock him in Kershaw, I'm absolutely struggling for cash elsewhere. But, I kind of don't mind him as an SP1 either.
Yeah, I wish the prices were reversed here and he was 10.9 on FanDuel and only 91 on DraftKings, but it is what it is, and I like him a lot just because of his price on FanDuel. He has a lot of upside, but at the same time, you might as well just play Kershaw right now on FanDuel. A lot of the prices for hitters you can really exploit, so you really don't have to save too much from the starting pitcher position on FanDuel. So I think he's in a really good matchup here, but for cash games, I'm probably just going paying a little bit higher.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The Kershaw is just a lock on FanDuel, just because, as you mentioned, there are pricing guys that are a bit different. Like I know Adam Jones is the one name that stands out, 2,600 on FanDuel. I believe he's one of the higher priced outfielders on DK. So that kind of makes a big difference as far as site concerns, as where to go with him. But I'm definitely with you. Velasquez on FanDuel, great GPP option. DraftKings, you can save some cash with him there. Obviously, it's not as consistent as Kershaw, but he's been pretty damn good this year.
Yeah, so I'd probably just go with Kershaw just because every day when I look at FanDuel hitter pricing, they're just so low, and it's just so easy to fit whoever you want in there, and then you could pick whatever starter. So it's very easy.
Yeah, definitely. And Aaron Blair, I mean, he's kind of the cheap guy on the slate here, facing off the Phillies at home. Um, I mean, a guy who I guess you could look at him in GPPs. I mean, I don't absolutely hate it because you can get whatever hitter you want. Also, I mean, kind of an interesting SP2 option if you want to pair him with Kershaw. I think you might be able to get some. You can be a little bit different. He doesn't come at a heavy price tag either.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good ballpark, so I do like him here. Obviously, a 5,200 on FanDuel is really low, but it's just there's no point to go that low when the prices are as they are on FanDuel. I kind of am on the fence with him on DraftKings. 7,500 is a little high, but like we've said, this offense, Phillies and Atlanta are both terrible, and he could have a decent outing.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that really pops up for me is because of that ballpark and also because he's playing the Phillies. It hasn't really been because he's been great. It's just more so this matchup is one that has, quality start potential. Maybe not necessarily a win, which is a little bit or a little bit concerning at that price tag on DraftKings. But, I mean, this is really a slate where there's not much below that you can work with as far as SP2 options.
Yeah, one of my big concerns about Blair, though, is just he hasn't really shown any strikeout upside, and that's kind of what you need when you're up that high price-wise.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not getting that win, it's like, okay, if you can bring some
And then no
strikeouts to back that up.
strikeouts. Yeah, he's doing really nothing.
Yeah, definitely. This next one here, Dallas Keuchel, David Price in Fenway, over under of 8, Boston minus 155 favorites. Keuchel, I mean, we saw this with Sonny Gray the other day, but obviously Keuchel's been really not that great this season. DK kind of puts him a little bit in play for me just because he is coming off a strong start. Obviously, Boston hasn't been the greatest against lefties. I know they faced some weak ones here in Oakland, but I mean, I guess an intriguing play just because his price is so low.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, 6,900. That's just an insane price for Dallas Keuchel, and yeah, he's had his struggles, but he still relies a lot on his ground ball percentage, and he's still able to get those. And I believe he did have a decent amount of strikeouts in his last game out against the Mariners. So there's some upside there. And we look at the Red Sox, and they have a bunch of lefties potentially in that lineup. But I think Holt will take the day off, and you'll see Chris Young, who hasn't even been that good this year. But FanDuel absolutely staying away. There's no way I would pay that price for him. But he is intriguing on DraftKings.
How do you feel about pairing him up with Kershaw in cash games?
It's actually not a bad strategy. It's a little risky just because the Red Sox offense has been really hot right now, but that'll set you right around the 20,000 mark for your two starting pitchers on DraftKings, and that gives you a decent amount to really fill out that lineup.
Yeah, 3,700 left over if you have both of them in. And, I mean, you're looking around – I mean, those guys, it's like all of them carry some sort of blow up potential. So it's like, okay, I might as well take the bigger name, Keuchel, over a guy like Adam Wainwright who hasn't looked good, or Blair or Jimenez or Weaver. I mean, that's what you're dealing with down there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the only thing that stinks about Kershaw when his price is that high. You kind of got to find that guy under 7K to really offset his price tag.
Yeah, and I think Keuchel kind of is that play tonight. I mean, he may not have a great start, but I still think – overall, I mean, he puts up, 15 DraftKings points, which is fine at that price tag.
Yeah, and he's a guy, too, even if he is giving up runs, he's still going to eat up innings. So that's something you don't really have to concern yourself with.
Yeah, definitely. And on the other side here, David Price, obviously you got a Houston team that's got some big-time right-handed bats. But also, I mean, David Price hasn't looked great. I still think he's worthy of a GPP look just because of that strikeout upside here. It's a nice matchup where you can see him getting double-digit potential against this free-swinging team.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at Houston, and it's pretty easy for a starter to strike them out. So I do like Price. Obviously, the 11,100 price tag on DraftKings isn't really going to fit in many lineups, especially if you have Kershaw. So I think he's more of a GPP play. Prices, but I don't know. It's just hard to really pinpoint what Houston offense is going to come out. Some days they'll be absolutely flat, and then other days they will hit the pitcher around pretty hard like they did to Kluber the other day.
Yeah, I mean, and you can kind of say the same thing with Price. I mean, you never know which one you're going to get this year. So I think that's exactly why it's going to be one of those boomer bust games. really on both sides because that's how they've been rolling out this year.
Yeah, and you look at Price, he says that he's figured things out, but his last few starts haven't been that good. And to me, his walk rate is pretty concerning. It's up there, but you look at Houston, they don't really walk too much. And also, Price's BABIP is really high. It's 373, so that eventually is going to come back down, and I think things are going to kind of even out for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Next one here, you got the Padres and Brewers in Miller Park, 8.5 over under. James Shields, Jimmy Nelson, and I'm a little bit iffy on both these guys. I think they're in a good spot to do some damage. Obviously, both these teams, not that great, more so the Padres, obviously, but Nelson's a guy who very up and down. James Shields as well, but I think the strikeout potential is very much there on both sides.
Yeah, I like Nelson a little bit more, not so much his price on DraftKings. I feel like I really wish that the sites would just switch each other's pricing where the DraftKings prices were FanDuel, just because on FanDuel it's so easy to put hitters in there and all the starting pitchers are pretty high on DraftKings. So if we could switch that around, that would be great. But no one's going to listen to me. I do kind of like Nelson a little bit more than Shields, just because Shields does have the huge home run potential that he's given up. And you look at Nelson, he's coming off 4 straight starts of at least 5 or 6 Ks in each of those. He did get roughed up against Cincinnati, but that was also in one of the better hitter parks. I know Miller Park is more of a hitter-friendly park as well, but this is his home park, so he pitches a little bit better there. And then the flip side, I feel like you just never know what to get with James Shields, and he's just scary. I kind of blasted him a week or two ago, and he pitched well that night, but then he came back and he got basically obliterated by the Mets. And his issue is just he gives up the home runs, and he's not really striking out too many guys as he used to, except for that one start with the Mets.
Yeah, I mean, you look at last year, I mean, he was still going to play home runs, but also did have that strikeout upside to back him a little bit. Here, not so much, and I'm with you. I think Nelson's, the better option here. Obviously, you look at the Padres, 29th in WOBA against righties, 26% strikeout rate. Nelson's also a minus 137 favorite, so you got to like that there.
Absolutely.
Next one here, you got Giants and Diamondbacks in Chase Field. Johnny Cueto, Zach Greinke, over under of 8. The way Chase Field has played this year, I'm not quite so high on either of these guys. I mean, against these offenses that are both in the top half, I think, the name recognition is there, but I think it's just a fade for me on both of them.
Yeah, you look at Cueto, and he's pitched a lot better at home in Giants AT&T Park this year. But he's had some issues on the road, and I'm still kind of on the fence with him. You're not sure what you're going to get with Cueto, and for that price tag, it's really high, and you really need to be sure when you're paying up that much for a pitcher. And I don't feel sure about Cueto. I think the only thing you can kind of bank on here is if you buy into the leaving cores factor for the Diamondbacks and they come up flat the next day. So I don't know. It's just something I'm not going to target. And then the same thing with Greinke. He's been atrocious, 7.61 ERA, Chase Field, and he just hasn't looked like the same Greinke he was last year. And even the 8,400 price on DraftKings is still not enticing enough for me.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I mean, looking at what the FanDuel prices, I mean, Cueto, 10,300, Greinke, 10.9, Kershaw just sitting at 12.5. You also got Price and Velasquez, big K upside there. They fall out of that bottom 5 mark for me as far as who I'm going for pitchers tonight.
Yeah, and you look at the offenses, like Arizona is still a pretty good offense. And the Giants, they kind of are pesky hitters who have some pop in it. So both matchups just aren't good, and the park is pretty bad for each pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, things are heating up out there in Arizona. I mean, it's up over 100 degrees. It's just Chase Field turns into a really friendly hitter park, as we've seen already this year.
Mm-hmm.
Next one here, you got Cardinals and Angels, and Adam Wainwright, Jared Weaver. A tale of 2 guys at the end of their careers there, just lobbing meatballs in. I don't like either of them. I just think one they're not missing any bats. That's big. That's concerning. And I know the Angels' offense has been below average, but overall, I can't see myself taking either of these guys.
Yeah, I'm on the same position with you. You look at Wainwright, and he hasn't struck out any more than 5 guys in any start, and he hasn't gone longer than 6 1/3 in any of his starts either. So it's just kind of one of those things. He's been getting hit pretty hard, giving up like almost, I think, at least 3 runs a game in every start. So it's just really not turning into a good DFS performance for him. And then you look at Weaver, and it's kind of the same thing. He has pitched better in his last start, but he's still just not striking out enough. And you look at this Cardinals offense, even though it's in Angel Stadium, or Big A, is that what they call it nowadays?
I have no idea. They've changed that name so many times. Like,
I searched for Angel Stadium the other day, and I think it didn't pop up. I think it's the Big A, but I don't know. Anyways, you look at the Cardinals, and they're just one of those teams that can always kind of go off. They don't have anyone who really scares you, but as a whole, they're a pretty good collective bunch.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we've seen it this. We saw him put up decent runs in the first game, and I think obviously we're still before the Schumacher outing tonight, so I think actually they were pretty favorable offense again. And I think, yes, I mean, the park factors are in both these guys' favors, but I don't think it's enough for me to give them a look. Last game of the night here, Mets and Dodgers, Bartolo Colon versus Clayton Kershaw. And for some reason, it just makes me smile watching these two square off against each other. Everyone loves Bartolo, and also everyone loves Clayton. And Dodgers big favorites here, and I just think Kershaw. I mean, yes, there's other big names on the slate, but he's just far more the consistent option.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a little bit harder to fit him in on DraftKings at that price, but FanDuel, I think it no problem. He should be a lock for cash games. But like we discussed earlier, you could probably pair him with maybe Keuchel, and that gets you right around where you need to be. And it's Kershaw. He's been so dominant this year, and I really don't have anything else to say. It's just it's a no-brainer to play him.
Yeah, I mean, they got 1.5% walk rate this season, strikeout rate north of 30. And you look at this Mets team, they strike out a ton against Southpaws, nearly 25%. So, I mean, really, it just sets up for another outing. I mean, the guy goes deep into games. I mean, he's a complete game candidate every night, double-digit strikeout candidate. I mean, I believe last 4 starts, he's got 10 strikeouts or more. So, I mean, the guy's just cruising. I'll pay that price tag all day.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at the Mets, and a lot of their hitters are all lefties. You got Granderson, Conforto, Duda, and I think Kershaw's just going to have his way in this matchup. And it kind of stinks for Colon because he's not in a terrible matchup here. It's going to be very hard for him to get the win, and he's not a guy who gets many strikeouts to begin with. So I think it kind of has to be a pass for Mr. Colon.
Yeah, I mean, now his price tag's kind of at a level where you need that win. And he's just not going to get it. If he was a little bit cheaper, maybe I'd take him into consideration, because I've done that strategy a few times where I've taken the opposing pitcher who's going up against Kershaw, who's in that 6K range, and it works out well.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are playing on a site that gets you points for pitchers hitting, I don't think he's going to get another home run in this game.
No, definitely not. I mean,
you can just fade that.
Kershaw's been known to give up the long ball to opposing pitchers. I mean, we've seen it.
But isn't that mainly just against Bumgarner?
It is, but
I feel like he has 4 home runs against him or something.
Yeah, but it's just fun to talk about Colon. I mean, the guy's just a gem to the baseball world.
Yeah, I don't know how he's still doing it, but
I don't know. So that's going to wrap things up here with the Pitcher Nail Down. Check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all our great tools and content.